Hello fellow YouTubers, Bear Prepper here. Some of my subscribers have asked to see how I do butter. I would actually say mine is more of a ghee. And not just regular butter. I use the unsalted butter because what happens is as your butter hardens up, it gets really grainy with the salt. So I prefer not to use the salt in mine. It kind of recrystallizes, I guess you would say. So what I have in here is 16 pounds of butter. I purchased mine at Sam's Club. I haven't been able to see a sale price. The prices just keep going up. So I figured, why wait for sale when it's just going to keep climbing. So what you do is you turn it on about medium heat, medium-high heat. You're going to melt it. And then we're going to bring it to a boil and start the clarifying process. Okay, this is where it gets tricky. You got to keep it past the boil over point. So what you do as it starts to boil over, just lift your pot up for a few seconds. Let it calm down and then put it back. At this point I'm on medium-low, and pretty soon it'll hit the break point and the bubbles will subside. I've scooped out a jar full to stop it from bubbling over so I can get it to the break point. Once it hits the break point, I will pour that back in, and then I will get off the contaminants. But until it hits that break point, I'm just going to let it cook. Okay, as you see, after boiling on a low heat for 5 minutes, it broke. And that's what I mean by broke. The foam will disappear, and you'll be able to see the yellow below. At this point, if you had to pour any out, scoop any foam out, go ahead and put it back in because it will cook more of the butter out of it. Sorry about that. It'll cook more of the butter out of it, and you won't have so much of the impurities to scrape off. So we'll let it cook and break, and then I'm going to let it cook for 30 minutes on a low boil. Okay, I just wanted to show you. Every butter behaves a little differently. I'm hoping you can see this. My butter, it was little specks. I don't know if you can see that they're little specks. Right now they're settling out. But they weren't clumping. What they're supposed to do is they're supposed to break apart, clump up, and go to either the top of the pot or the bottom of the pot. And they weren't doing that. So what I did was I took a whisk and I whipped them. And by whipping them, I broke them up. And upon breaking them up, they finally started clumping. What they should do, they should clump and get heavy enough to fall. And at this point is where I start scooping out. And if you can see in that measuring jar, now that's not butter I'm going to throw away. I'm still going to use it. I'm not going to use it on bread, but I'll still use it. And so at this point, you want to take a spoon and you want to just start skimming. And just try not to get the butter underneath. You're just trying to skim off the solids on the top. Okay, I don't know if you can see, but at this point, the clumps are getting bigger and bigger. So now they're starting to bind. And depending on how much butter you do at a time, really decides how long you have to cook it. You've got to cook it until it reaches the consistency of clarity. You don't want to stop cooking it until it's pretty clear. And so as these start to clump together, they're going to fall to the bottom. So at this point, I don't want to scrape the bottom of the pot. Okay? You still want to keep it stirred every now and then. But you don't want to do any scraping because all that's starting to settle at the bottom. And I'll let it go another 30 minutes. And if it's not clear enough, then I'll whip it again and continue on. So we're on just short of an hour of cooking, and it's 16 pounds. I ended up having to take it off the stove for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Let it sit so everything could solidify, because there was so much of it. And then putting it back on the stove for 30 minutes. Ended up cooking it almost an hour and a half. This is how much I got out of it, not including what has settled to the bottom. And now this is still good, the stuff that floats. You can use this in cooking. And as you see, if you look, there is a layer, probably about an inch of good butter that you end up scooping out with it. So don't throw this away. You can mix it back up. The impurity butter never hurts you when you're eating it without canning it. So don't throw it away now, and just use it as you would in your cooking. If you want to put it in a block and cut it into, you know, butter strips or whatever you want to call it, then go ahead and do that. So now we come to the canning process. I wanted to show you what 2-year-old butter looked like. I don't shake mine. I don't stir it. I put it in the jars and I leave it. And as you see, it solidifies nicely. This has been on the counter. Let me get a butter knife here. Alright, can you see that? There you go. It's been on the counter. See? Spreads. The only difference between this butter and regular butter is there's no salt in it. Spreads beautifully. If you want to add salt to it, you can at any point in time. Just don't cook the salted butter. That's the stuff that turns into granules. Spreads beautifully. This is 1 stick in one of these little jars when they're within a 1/4 inch of the rim. So what we're going to do is we've got a couple of these left. You know, sometimes you give away more than you actually keep for yourself, and so you lose some of your jars. So in the oven for the last 30 minutes, I've had my jars. The way I do my jars is, yes, I put them in the dishwasher. I scrub them thoroughly. And then I put them in the oven to heat up. About 200 degrees, 30 minutes. Because I do not pressure can mine. So, let me get some lids handy. I'm not going to do tattler lids on this because I'm not processing. I took the lids and every other one I turned so that when the water's in there, I don't have trouble getting them apart. So we need a funnel. Okay, so we have our lids, our funnel, our magnet, our boiling water, which I'm going to put these into to soften them. And don't take your jars out until everything is ready. Once everything is ready, you can probably turn off your heat at this point in time for your jars, because your oven's going to stay hot. And let's pull out 1 tray of jars. So now remember, everything is really, really hot. Whatever you do, don't scrape the bottom of your butter. And we're just going to pour it in. You can use your funnel if you want. 1/4 inch of the top. I probably don't need half the jars I got ready because I'm using the big jars today. See how pretty color it is? It is so crystal clear. And as long as you don't scrape the bottom, you won't move those solids. And yes, I'm going to have a mess to wipe on the rims because I didn't use my funnel. And it's really hot. But I'd have a mess anyways because these measuring cups drip. So I'm dripping all over the jars anyways. Okay. And my arm's getting tired. I just think it's so beautiful. Oh, okay. Don't touch the side of the pot when you're getting down to the bottom. And see, because I dropped it, you see all the solids? So, I gotta get those solids out. Don't use water at this point. Just take a towel. So see, try not to get to the bottom of the pot. You'll grab those solids up. And you don't want those solids. You work so hard to get those solids out of your jars. So now we've got to wipe the rims. And remember, it's very, very, very hot. And now if you grab right at the top where you didn't pour butter, it's not so bad. But they're really, really hot. And you just want to get them to where the grease isn't there. You don't need to soapy them and all that. They're going to be perfectly fine. Just wipe that very top. Change placement because it's hard to tell. And as you see, there's very little on there. Because it's hot. It just drips right back off. And it doesn't really stick. So I would say each one of these jars is a box of butter. The pints. Now we're going to put our lids on. You know what? I grabbed the wrong kind of lids, didn't I? Most of mine are wide mouth. So, make some room in here. And I'll shove some wide mouths in while I'm screwing on the bands on the other one. This is where it gets difficult. Because you don't want to rock them too much. But you got to get that on. And just barely get them on until you get a pot holder in your hand. And you won't get a pot holder until you got bands on them all, okay? So, just be as gentle as you can and don't burn yourself. They are 200 plus degrees. Another way you can do it is put your finger in the middle and kind of slide them that way. That works much better, so I'll do that. But put something on your finger. It's very hot. Okay, so the last step is to get them out of there and set them to cool. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull them out. And unfortunately I have to walk around the camera. And then once you get them over here, holding them with a pot holder, tighten them. Okay? So we're just going to keep following that process. And take them out of the pan. Hold them with a pot holder. And crank them down. Okay? I don't need my jar lifter. Crank them down, alright? Do not grab these with your hand. They are hotter than anything you can imagine. Make sure no dogs are underneath you. No kids are around you. This is very hot stuff. Okay? And that's all there is to it. You don't need to shake these. You just let them cool and they're done. Okay, so we have 14.5 pounds out of 16 pounds of butter. Okay, so what you do now is you turn them upside down. That allows the rings to stay hot a little longer so they really seal up good. And like I said, you don't need to shake these or anything like that. They're going to turn the same color no matter what. And these are the nasty solids that I was talking about. Ooh, give them to your dog though. Don't throw them out. They can eat that stuff. And see, there's still some butter. Here's what my butter turned out like. This is 16 pounds of butter. As you see, it's all one color. No shaking. And I went ahead and did this one so I could show you guys. Pop it off. Break the seal. And look at that. Beautiful. Let me put a little. No grains. I know whoever thought of putting butter on their finger. But look how well it melts. See how it's getting clear? It melts really quick and easily. And tastes wonderful. Just like butter. Hope you try this. Blessings.